Hello and welcome to Mike Drops the Mic. I'm Mike Lineman. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Will Gadd. Will is one of the best ice climbers in the world. He's the first person to ice climb Niagara Falls. He's also one of the best paragliders in the world, and he has the world record for 263 miles. Will is an absolute outdoorsman and an all-around athlete. Will, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, good morning. It's pretty early, but I'm nice to be talking with you and get going here. So all good.
Yeah, Will woke up very early for me for this interview, so it was very considerate. Eastern time to Mountain time. So I'm assuming this is not how your typical morning starts, but
No,
which is
it'll start pretty quick, regardless, with kids and everything else getting going, and then outdoors to go ice climbing or something today. So yeah, but where are you exactly?
I'm in Florida right now.
Okay.
Yeah, South Florida, so like around Fort Lauderdale area.
All right, we're in very different worlds. It's like snowing and minus 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in America this morning, but we're in different places.
Yeah. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. So that was my family sends me pictures of the snow back home, and I'm actually going back December 20th. But either way, yeah, this is my first time it being December 8th and not having snow around me. So I'm familiar with snow, but just not this year. This is my first year down south.
Right on. Well, enjoy it. Florida is an amazing place. People always think of Florida as, you know, not really a natural. It's not top of the list for sort of natural places, but just amazing beauty there with the. I did some cave diving work there years ago, and all these beautiful springs and the ocean. It's just a wonderful place. So I need to get back there.
And the Everglades, there's all kinds of beautiful. I do a lot of. I know you're like I said, the total outdoorsman, and you do some kayaking, and I did some kayaking at the Everglades as well. So
Nice.
it's a beautiful place if you ever get the chance to kayak there. But anyway, how old were you when you started ice climbing? I'm not too familiar with ice climbing, so I'd love to learn a lot about it.
Yeah, I know ice climbing is a sport where you strap on these medieval weapons on these ice axes on your hands, and crampons, which are sort of giant claws for your feet, and then you climb stuff. So I started when I was about 12 years old because my dad got into it, and for some reason he thought this would be a good thing for me to do as well. And so I went out and did a little bit of ice climbing. I actually built a wall in my backyard in Canada because it's really cold all the time. So I built this wall out of snow and kind of iced it down with my mom's teapot, and then was climbing the thing and noticed that the sky was moving, and I actually got the whole thing fell over on top of me, and I was like, this is no good. So I got my first ice climb, I basically got avalanched, and it was not a great start to a career, that's for sure. But as I got older, I got more into it, and I just played high school sports. I didn't actually ice climb at all through most of high school, until my last year of high school. But I was mainly into basketball and the Canadian winter sports and team sports.
Sure.
Had to get older and go, yeah, this ice climbing is actually a cool thing, but mostly team sports to start with.
So when you're doing team sports and things like that, obviously your training is completely different for ice climbing compared to basketball or other team sport activities. How has your training progressed throughout your life so far?
Well, one thing that's remained relatively constant and often surprises people, the vast bulk of my training is doing the sport. If you're a basketball player, you play basketball, and that's, you might do other things as well. You might go to the weight room, you might do different things, but you got to be good at your sport. You can be the strongest human in the world, and if you're not any good at your sport, then you're not going to be any good at it. So most of what I do is by sport. 90+% of my training is ice climbing or climbing of some version. I'm out in the mountains a lot doing different sports, and just moving around in the mountains takes care of most of it. And then I do some specific stuff that's not really about getting stronger anymore. It's just keeping my body working. I'm 54 years old, so I've got to keep things moving. And so I've got a gym in my garage, and I go in there, and mostly really basic stuff: deadlifts and squats and pull-ups and push-ups and dips, body weight exercises, except for the deadlifting and squats and stuff. But yeah, keep moving, do something every day.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Every day, just do something.
Right. And that's so important for your mental health as well as your physical health, right? But
Yeah.
your diet, what does your diet look like? Is it pretty if you're preparing for a more difficult ice climb, does your diet differ at all from a typical Wednesday, or is it pretty consistent?
Not really, just the quantity varies. It's if you're outside in the winter doing something that takes a lot of calories, then your ability to eat is impressive. You can honestly in the winter, if it's my diet is basically seafood and eat it. It really it's not very particular because I need so many calories. And again, it's like if you're eating a good basic diet, people tend to get hung up on like the minutia of their performance through diet and things, but it's eat a good basic diet with mostly whole foods, not too much junk of any kind, and trade your ass off and the rest takes care of it. It's like
Sure.
it's not if you're trying to be a bodybuilder or something, but I get pretty my body changes a lot through this different sports I do. I spend the spring kayaking and then the early summer paragliding, and those are really different energy requirement sports than my winter sports of ice climbing. So it changes a lot, for sure.
Sure, I can imagine. Now, does your training change a lot or no? Like if you're going into paragliding season or kayaking, do you
Yeah,
change the routine of deadlift, squats, and things like that? Or
not too much. No, I mean, if you can do those things, then you have a functional body and you can move forward. It's again, doing the sports trumps everything else. If you're not doing your sports a lot, then you're not going to be any good at them. So people do tend to get hung up on this kind of like exactly what they're doing for training or exactly what they're eating, and those things have an impact. But showing up for your sport really regularly and focusing really hard that needs to be where your brain is at. And if you're worried about like, wow, did I get exactly the right mix of micronutrients? It's like, no, go lift stuff, do your sports a lot, and you will kick ass. The rest is details. I think if you talk to most top athletes, maybe if you're a sprinter where everything's got to be just perfect, but
yeah,
if you're a football player, whatever, you've got to do your sport. You got to give her. So.
sure. Now, I'm a little bit curious. You were talking about ice climbing, and I've seen videos of you ice climbing up Niagara Falls and some other spots, and your Instagram has all kinds of incredible pictures of your feats that you've climbed. It's absolutely astounding. But the two axes that you're talking about and the spike cleats, how thick does the ice have to be able to dig in there and be able to ascend up? Because you talked about when you were young and the avalanche happening and the snow falling. I feel like that would happen all the time. Like, do you get terrified that the ice is not thick enough when you get in? I mean, not terrified because you've done this so much, you have an idea, but I just can't even imagine of just being like, oh, this is thick enough, and then it just falling down. Is that a constant concern or no?
Well, first of all, the fear of the terror thing is something that I deal with every time I go out. And if you're not scared doing this stuff, then something's probably pretty wrong with you, right? Like,
Yeah,
fear is a signal that your brain sends you. It's like, pay attention, things are getting real, or I don't understand this, and so you have to figure out what that signal is saying, and then deal with it, and then you won't be as terrified, and you can actually function. Terror is not a good state to be trying to do anything important in. So, excuse me, coffee getting going here, but the if you've lived in a colder climate and you've ever tried to get ice off your sidewalk, it's really hard, right? You're out there like chopping on it and beating on it, and it's not coming off. It's super frustrating. And the same is true for ice climbing. Most of the time, if the ground is frozen, it's really hard to get the ice off the rock. What you have to do is use what's there intelligently and look for where it's thicker. And then maybe you're not swinging into it like Conan, you're backing your swing down a bit where it's like you're using a little bit more precise swing and a gentler swing and trying to basically build a little ledge for your ice tools to sit on in the ice. You're not swinging into it anymore so much. So those are I'm not so much worried about the climb falling down most of the time as I am worried about making an error in judgment. Maybe I think the ice is thick enough and it isn't, or it's too warm. Those are the things that worry me, is my own kind of errors. Everybody makes errors all the time. It's just that mine have really high consequences. So I have to expect those errors and then try to build processes into my thinking and my actions so that I hopefully stop them before they get too severe.
yeah, sure. And I tell you what, you didn't have many errors at all when you climbed Niagara Falls. I mean, watch the video of that. That was absolutely breathtaking. And I've been to Niagara Falls, so it was truly incredible to see, because knowing what it looks like firsthand is, I just can't even imagine. So what did that mean to you to become the first person on Earth to ascend to the top of Niagara Falls via ice climb?
Yeah, a lot of people have gone over it, in a barrel and every
Yeah,
other way.
they go down, they don't go
Yeah,
up.
I'm going up. I did it
Yeah,
backwards as usual, but no, it was a really beautiful climb, and there were so many problems with that. Everything from water levels fluctuate due to power generation. So how do I deal with that? How do I keep the crew of people that's there shooting what I'm doing safe? Everything that people see in that has got a person behind the lens, often in a really hazardous place. So how do I work with my team to keep everybody safe? Because if something goes wrong there, it's directly, and it should be on me. It's I'm trying to climb this thing, but the main problem, honestly, is keeping everybody working on it and involved there safe. I know what I'm doing with ice climbing. I've got some skill
sure.
with that. But
Yeah.
how do I keep the person running the jib, or shooting on the ground, or the New York State Police who work there are awesome people, and we did some training together. How do we keep them safe? And then there's helicopters around. It's just a risk management chaos. And then finally, when I get to climb, that's what I do. That's what I love. But I have to first kind of do my job, which is to keep everybody safe, including myself and my partners. And then you get to climb Niagara Falls, which is pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
that is incredible. And
And
you're
you look
talking,
at well, no,
oh, go
you look
ahead.
you look at it from the outside. It's like it went really smoothly, but on the inside, it's like, oh, okay, this power station is drawing water, and is it actually going to be cold enough, or is it too cold? And what happens to all these people that are on a slope to doom? How do I manage them? I've got all of a sudden people are getting interested in this, and we didn't really set up a lot of crowd control because the area is closed, but now people are getting interested in being in there, and if they're interested in go over the edge again, it's so one of the biggest challenges I deal with on every one of these projects is just keeping everybody safe, and then instilling attitudes in them so they keep each other safe, and working together to make that happen. So and then you get to go climb something cool, which is
Yeah,
great.
and it's so fascinating to get your mindset, just to get an insight about that's what you're thinking about, and also the precision hitting and whether to put more force behind your hit with your axe. Wow, that's very interesting to hear from you. So you
Oh, it's
talked about you're doing what you love. What are some of your other most memorable experiences when you're ice climbing?
Well, there's ice climbing, and then a lot of what I do, I just got back from Baffin Island, which is northern Canada above the Arctic Circle. There's no trees. The polar bears outnumbered us by quite a lot on this island we're on in the middle of nowhere. And what I'm doing there is helping a scientist recover samples of the world's oldest rocks. And they're a little bit different in that it's, the people used to think the inside of the earth was just this ball that sat there, but it moves around, and some parts are older, some parts aren't older. And when that magma comes to the surface, it contains traces of how the earth formed. But these rocks are really hard to find. So I'm helping the scientists get the rocks up the middle of cliffs in Canada's north, and then doing
Wow.
some paramotoring. So flying my paraglider with a motor around the island to try and find partly where the polar bears are, and then also where the best climbing might be, and where these rocks might be. And then we climbed a big rock route. So I do a lot of these different sports. Ice climbing is just one of them. So my memories, like most recently, of flying a paramotor over
Uh,
the Arctic, seeing the polar bears down there, and be like, I'm not going to land there because they will eat you.
that is incredible.
um, so memories like that, and kayaking first descents around the world, and ice climbing in everywhere from China to the Andes, to lots of great memories. But honestly, what drives me is like, what's next? What can we do that's interesting? What's the coolest thing that I could do with my time, whether it's helping scientists understand climate change, or this latest trip where we're helping to recover geologic samples, to flying my paraglider over the Grand Canyon, to climbing Niagara Falls. It's like every year it just starts like, what's the coolest thing I could do? And then try to make it happen.
Sure. And you talked about paragliding, and I have to ask about that world record of 263 miles.
Yeah, and that's been beaten,
So
by the way, which is as it should be. World records are meant to be
yeah,
broken. So I don't currently have that. I just want to make
no,
that
you
clear.
don't,
Much
but you
respect to
had
them.
it. You had it.
Yeah,
So I mean, you have to. You were the best. I mean, that's a record. You got to
yeah,
talk about it. So, what route did you take when you went 263 miles, and how long did it take?
yeah. So that was a good one. And I launched near a place that most people have probably never heard of called Zapata, Texas, which is just on the border with Mexico and southern Texas. And it's a really unique place where this kind of moist air mass hits this dry mass, makes tornadoes and chaos, but it's really good for paragliding. So you get towed up behind a truck, just like a kid with a kite, only you're the kite, release the line, and then you start thermaling like a hawk. And you go from thermal to thermal and just go. And if you can find a thermal, then you stay in the air. And if you can't, you suck, and you get to land in 105 degrees in the Texas kind of desert and sit there like, beside the road, wait for the vehicle to show up and find you.
Jeez.
And I've spent about 4 months total of my life where I go out and try this every day. So that's 120 days, give or take. So the odds in any given day of getting a record are at least 120 to 1. So you
Yeah,
show up, you fail 119 times, but on the 120th go, you get it, and
sure.
so but it's just freedom, like any type of aviation to me is just freedom. It's one of the best things in life, and you're out there in the sky trying to find the next thermal and chasing birds because they're really good at finding thermals, much better than we are, and
Yeah.
over the Texas plains, it's just an amazing thing. And I was in the air for about 10 hours. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
incredible.
it was a long day, but it was
Yeah.
worth it.
I bet you get
You get
hungry up there too.
you get hungry, but your snacks are things that you've got stuffed into the sides of your harness. It's a relatively comfortable harness. It's like a lazy boy in the sky,
Oh,
basically. It's pretty comfy. So you're up there, you know, eating and drinking and irrigating parts of Texas as you fly over it. Yeah, you're going for it. But it's just, it's interesting because when you land, you don't really realize you've been in the air. You've been in the air 10 hours. You feel destroyed, but it's so engaging mentally that the whole time you're up there, you're just worried about where is that next thermal? Is that thunderstorm going to turn into something that's a problem for me or not? And you're on an aircraft that just doesn't fly very well or very fast. Sorry, that's the alarm to get the kids up here.
yeah, I know. I'm keeping an eye on the clock too.
No worries. We got a few more minutes. They could sleep in a little bit this morning. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, and life is all these different things that come together that you try and manage. I've got to get the kids up. I've got to, articles to
Yeah.
do. It's kind of every day is a little bit complicated, but that simplicity of flying in the sky, you're not thinking about all that stuff. You're just out there doing your thing, whether it's ice climbing or paragliding. And people talk about mindfulness. Nothing gets your mind's attention like the possibility of serious injury or death. You tend to be pretty focused. You don't have to you don't have to worry about thinking about it at that point.
Sure. Well, I want to be sensitive to your time. And the last thing I do with all my interviews is what I call 7 quick questions. They're short answer questions, super short, just questions about maybe what we talked about, maybe not, just to get to know you better. Is that okay?
Yeah, please hit me.
All right. What is your favorite movie?
7. That
7.
guy, yeah, that guy was completely nut bar, but he did what he did with everything he had.
Sure.
I admire people that decide to do something and then give it everything they've got. The outcome's not as important as the fact that they just got in there and gave it everything they had in their lives and did something cool.
What is your favorite cheat meal?
Cheat
Unhealthy.
meal. I don't really have cheat meals. Like if I want to eat it, I eat it. It's like when you're burning as many calories as I do, it's not super issue. But things I really, this friend of mine makes this caramel sauce, absolutely insane. And I've been known to like demolish a small tub of it at one time with a spoon. So it's really good.
Is there one place in the world you've been looking to ice climb that you haven't yet?
Yeah, Antarctica. I'm very hopeful to do a science sport trip there in 2023, early 2023. So try to get that done.
What about paragliding? Is there one place on earth you'd love to paraglide that you have not yet?
Yeah, South Africa. There's a few places in South Africa that are absolutely amazing that I've never flown. And then I'd like to fly the Rift to the Lake Valley in Africa. I'd be like, 5,000 kilometers, give or take 3,000 miles of paragliding in Africa. Yeah, there's a lot of places left.
I think South Africa is the #1 country I want to travel to. I'm obsessed with
Yeah.
South Africa. It's so diverse from one coast to the other coast. It's incredible. I'm a huge wildlife guy. So, I mean, you got
Oh,
penguins on one side, you got lions on the other side, and sharks all over. I'd love to go.
that should be a movie about lions chasing penguins, chasing sharks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd love to as well. And I didn't know there are actually penguins in South Africa. I thought that was only in Antarctica thing. So
No,
I just learned something cool from you.
on the West Coast. On the West Coast.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's you gotta look up pictures of it because it doesn't look like Antarctica at all. It's strange, but it's it's cool.
Oh, that's super cool. See, there's another reason. Now I've learned a good thing on talking with you. I get to go,
Yeah,
I
now
need to
you're
go.
going. So, what has been your favorite country that you've traveled to?
So many countries, every country I go to, it always seems alien and weird at first. Then you get there for a while and you discover that everybody's just trying to make it up there, same as anywhere in the world. That you find people that you like. And I think the biggest lesson I've had from my travel is 99.99% of the people in the world are awesome. We're told that other cultures are this way or that way, and you show up there and you're like, this country, the people are like, mean to foreigners. And you show up and you learn how to say please and thank you, and then you next thing you're drinking beers and going and doing cool stuff. So it's I love travel because it gets rid of those ideas about where you're going, or reinforces, how great some place is. Whether it's the south, I flew a paramotor across the U.S. and everybody's like, oh, the southeastern U.S. As a Canadian, that's maybe not, top of the list. You think about all these stereotypes, and then you get out there and the people are awesome.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the whole trip. It was just super friendly people doing cool stuff, and it just changed my view of the Southeast. And that's what I love about travel. So thinking about that.
Sure. And also, I mean, we've been talking for like not too long, and I can tell you're very welcoming and very personable. So I think that very much helps you as well. Very outgoing. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. So my
was it Mark Twain that said travel is fatal to prejudice? And I think that's true. You go places, you meet people, you're like, you don't look at things the same way, but the other is really scary. These people aren't like me. And then you get there, you're like, yeah, they pretty much are. They just live in a different place. They're trying to do different things, and they're cool.
Yeah. So my last question, you're talking about always looking for something new to do outdoors. What is your next goal for being outdoors, whether that's kayaking, paragliding, ice climbing? What's your next big goal?
Well, my first goal is always to survive. It's like wake up in the morning.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, it helps me tune my mind and keep it in the right place. I do some speaking on risk management, and your attitude is kind of everything. How you look at it and what you want to get out of it, and what your goal is. And when people forget that goal of, I want to get back at the end of the day, then things tend to go sideways. So that's my short-term goal. And then longer term, I'll send you the list. It's like, I'm going to need a couple more lifetimes to get it all, but I'm looking forward to Antarctica. I've got another trip to Quebec coming up, and another sport science project that I'm trying to get done. And today I'm going to just do my best to make it a worthwhile day.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking with me on such short notice and such short time. I really appreciate it. I think I learned a lot. And
Likewise.
I enjoyed our conversation very much. I know you have to go wake the kids up and you have an eventful day planned. Well, I'll let you know. I'll let you go. But thank you again, Will, very much. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And maybe I'll see you in South Africa, and we'll check out some penguins and lions, which I think is really cool. Those two things together. See, I didn't even know that.
That'll be your new favorite movie. That will be the movie you're talking about there.
Penguins versus lions versus sharks.
Yeah.
We kind of know how that's going to end. All right, cool. Thanks, man. Have a great day.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.